Hello everyone. TwoSeventy recently announced that it would be looking into updating the game's state groups, so I was curious to find out how accurate they currently are. In this video, we'll be comparing the state groups with the real-life stats, and I'll reveal my own design for an updated map that is relatively accurate and at least somewhat balanced. The African American state group is the biggest state group in the game, with 16 states, and is almost totally accurate, with 15 of its 16 states being in the top 16 in real life too. However, there's room for improvement, as Arizona has not got a particularly high percentage of its population who are African American, and therefore Arizona should definitely be removed from this state group. Often players going for the African American bonus will also try to win the overlapping Old South bonus. The Old South refers to the southern states that were part of the 13 colonies, while it can also refer to the pre-Civil War South. However, the Old South state group excludes Delaware, a southern state that was part of the original 13 colonies, as well as Texas, Tennessee, and Florida, which were part of the Confederacy. Today, what is considered the South has changed. A poll of Vox readers in 2016 found that Maryland, part of the Old South in the game, was considered less southern than Missouri, West Virginia, Kentucky, Texas, Florida, and Tennessee, all of which aren't categorized as Old South in the game. Clearly, there is no correct answer, but my own feeling would be to rename the state group to Deep South, add Texas, Tennessee, and Florida, and remove Maryland and Virginia. The next state group, agriculture, is highly inaccurate, with 5 of its 12 states not in the top third of states for agriculture in real life, including all 3 of the big states that are currently part of this group. I think the most accurate move would be for this group to become a group of largely small states, similar to the Old South state group as it currently is. This would also make a lot of the Midwestern and Western states worth fighting over earlier, rather than being ballot round fodder. Export-driven is another inaccurate state group, with 5 of its 11 states not in the top third of states for exports in real life, again including 3 big states. This state group could be updated to be more accurate, but some of the top export states, Texas, Louisiana, Alaska, and North Dakota, are already oil and gas states, so this state group, if updated, might be quite similar to oil and gas, and that might be a little bit boring. Back to a more accurate state group, all but 2 town and county states, Missouri and Maine, have a high proportion of their population that are students, so only a small update would be needed here to make this group accurate. And it's the same story in high tech, with only Michigan and Pennsylvania looking like they're in need of removal from this group. There are a lot of interesting states that could be added to this group. For example, it would be great to see New Jersey's importance begin to match its size and price. Unfortunately, it goes from bad to worse for Pennsylvania, which is also not in the top third of states for manufacturing. Without doing a full analysis, it looks as though the statistics suggest a possible slight shift away from traditional manufacturing states towards more high-tech states, with Washington, California, Oregon, and Connecticut all ranking highly for manufacturing. However, in oil and gas, this time it's Pennsylvania succeeding where California cannot. Increasing extraction of shale gas via fracking has led to Pennsylvania making the top 10, while both California and South Dakota have very low levels of production comparatively and ought to be removed from this group. The swing states group is again one where there is no right answer as to which states should be included. Should it be based on long-term trends or just the last election? My own opinion is that it's exciting to have a map that represents the current political landscape as closely as possible, and therefore this state group should be based off the results of the 2020 presidential election. This would see states where the result was extremely close, like Georgia, Nevada, and Michigan, be added to the state group, while others such as Colorado, New Mexico, and Virginia could be removed. Finally, the Latino state group is the only one which is already fully accurate. This state group comprises 10 states, and all of these 10 states are in the top 10 in reality too. Some people have suggested new state groups, and I thought it would be interesting to take a look at some of these suggestions. When suggesting a new state group, I think that there are 3 criteria that ought to be considered. Firstly, does this group really have a significant political impact? Secondly, what, if any, are the things that this group typically does or does not support? This is necessary to know so that politicians can be judged on whether a group would be likely to support them, and from there, given matching bonuses or penalties. So for example, one would assume that most in the oil and gas industry would back politicians who support continued or even increased extraction of oil and gas. Finally, is this a group that is largely found in some states, or is it found almost everywhere? And one of the most popular suggestions, a veteran state group, is found almost everywhere. While there are differences, with the percentage of the population that are veterans ranging from 4.3% in states like New York to 10.7% in states like Alaska, This is only a 6.4% difference. In comparison, the town and gown group has a difference of 16% between the state with the highest percentage of the population that are students v the state with the lowest, although this gap does fall to 8% if you exclude DC. The suggestion of a seniors state group is slightly better, with a difference of 10% between the top and bottom ranked states. But I still would prefer to see groups added that differ by more from state to state. If seniors or veterans were added, I think they'd be better fits as national groups, reflecting the fact that they're everywhere. My own suggestion would be to add a tourism state group, as tourism is huge in some states such as Hawaii and very low in others. However, I don't think this is necessarily the perfect solution, as it's not fully clear what policies those in the tourism industry would support, and therefore, it might be hard to give candidates bonuses or penalties for this group. With that said, I still think that this would make for an interesting state group. So overall, this is what my proposed map would look like. I should note that the symbol for the export-driven bonus is being used to represent the proposed tourism state group. The average state now has more state groups than before, but there have still been states that have lost a few state groups, especially in the Rust Belt. I've had to sacrifice a little bit of accuracy to ensure that all 4 big states still have 5 state groups. For example, Tennessee, Washington, and Oregon are bigger manufacturing states than California and Texas, but it is the latter 2 that I've put into the manufacturing state group. There have also been some big winners. Louisiana now has 5 state groups rather than 3, while New Jersey has jumped all the way from 1 to 4. The additions of New Jersey and Arkansas have also made the African American state group even bigger than before, increasing it from 16 states to 17 states after Arizona was removed. With an update to state groups, an update to the size of their bonuses is also, I feel, quite necessary. The proposed bonus sizes are based purely on balance rather than any accuracy, trying to ensure that both Democratic and Republican candidates will be competitive. Giving out 100k is a swing state group, which is typically something both Republicans and Democrats can get bonuses for. Also at 100k is the manufacturing-based group, which leans Republican, and the high-tech group, which leans Democrat. At 75,000 are the Democrat-leaning African American and town and gown bonuses, as well as the Republican-leaning agriculture and Old South bonuses. Finally, at $50,000 is the lean Republican oil and gas group, the lean Democrat Latino group, and the tourism group, which would probably not fall particularly one way or the other. I've tried to ensure that all of the big 4 states are equally powerful. Texas and California both contribute to groups worth a total of $375,000, while the slightly smaller Florida and New York both contribute to groups worth a total of $350,000. Assuming a typical Republican secures Florida and Texas, like in real life, and a typical Democrat secures New York and California, the Republican would secure $75,000 from Old South and $100,000 from swing states. The Democrat would secure $75,000 from town and gown and $100,000 from high tech. This would then leave a battle between California and Texas over the $100,000 manufacturing base, and a battle between New York and Florida over the $75,000 African American bonus. And all 4 states would be part of the battle over the Latino bonus. Of the remaining bonuses, just from Texas alone, the Republican would be close to the $50,000 oil and gas bonuses, while the Democrat would be close to the $50,000 tourism bonus. The final bonus, agriculture, would likely fall to the Republican due to its overlap with oil and gas, the Old South, and swing states. However, the Democrat might also get it due to its overlap with town and gown, or if they were able to win the battles over manufacturing and African American. Since agriculture is a state group that Republicans are likely to want to go after, this means that Republicans are likely to do slightly better in rural areas, while Democrats will likely be the ones to be winning the bigger states. This would also be relatively similar to what often happens in real life, with more rural areas going Republican. Overall, I believe that this map would probably lead to a relatively close game, but it would of course require playtesting to be sure on how it would actually pan out. I'd be interested to hear your own thoughts on what the next 270 map should look like, so feel free to drop a comment down below. If you want to see more like this, feel free to like and subscribe. If you'd like to play 270, it is available to download for free from the App Store, Google Play, and Steam. Links are in the description below.